You're listening to the PR Wind Down Podcast, the show for public relations professionals who are ready to see real change in the PR industry. We are your hosts, April White and Laura Schooler. Let's get ready to wind down.
I have a crazy story for you. Last night, I'm in the kitchen, and I was like, what is that giant slow-moving spider? And then I crush it, and then I pick it up, and I was like, that's a scorpion. And I Google Arizona scorpions, and I was like, yep, Arizona bark scorpion. That's exactly what I killed. So now, mystery solved.
I can't, oh my God.
Yeah,
That
happened. Yeah. Yeah. So I immediately ordered scorpion traps from Amazon.
Scorpion traps? Like, who even knew? Oh God. That's nuts.
Okay. So on that note, our guest today is Krysten Copeland. Krysten is the founder of KC & Co. Communications, a small but mighty public relations agency located in Washington, D.C. With nearly 15 years of experience, she guides firm operations and strategy and works with the clients and the media to secure coverage for the issues and stories that are changing the world. Welcome, Krysten.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, we're super excited. You have a very obviously impressive career background, and I know that you're currently working, well, not currently, but you are specializing all of the time in a lot of very interesting and volatile and fast-moving markets that are in the middle of tumultuous times. So we're very excited to chat with you about that, knowing that you're at the intersection of all of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, being in Washington, D.C. and having called it home for the past 12 years really set the scene for what would be my career, which has spanned all verticals. I like to say, if you want to get anything done, you got to go 3 places. You got to go to L.A., which is where I'm from. You got to go to D.C., which is where I live. And you got to go to New York, which is where I love. And so having been in the kind of epicenter of all of those spaces and getting to touch all of these different kinds of parts of public relations and then parts of industries, it's been really, really exciting.
That's so cool. Laura already has a question.
I was just going to say, what sort of like inside Washington type things that you can share have you done in PR? Because we don't talk about it that much.
So I've always been on the campaign side. I've never worked on the Hill. My actual first job in politics was actually Kim R. Ford, who ran for Congress here in DC. That was my first congressional race and my first race period. And with that, I did learn a lot about how Washington works. I'm still an idealist after seeing the things I've seen, let's just say that. But I understand why some people aren't. I understand why people get disillusioned with government and how it works and politics and how it works. If you think your workforce is political and you don't work in politics, just imagine how politically inside, working politics is,
Right.
even on those campaigns. And, as a Black woman, we oftentimes are told, well, you're here to fulfill a duty, but you can't say too much. And luckily, I didn't experience any of that on the campaigns I've been on, because all of them have been run by Black candidates, with the exception of Andrew Valinsky out of New Hampshire, who was an amazing, amazing boss. He ran for governor against Krysten back in 2020. But even still with that campaign, I felt very heard. But I can't say the same for everyone who might be working in Washington, especially people of color, unfortunately.
So I have a question for you. In my head, doing political PR, which I've never touched, would involve a lot of sort of framing the other candidates for their shortcomings, failings, character flaws, etc. What percentage of that is the focus versus kind of putting forth the narrative that your candidate is putting out?
So it depends on the candidate, it depends on the race, and it depends on the overall timing. And so opposition research is definitely a thing. Some days, the red folder will come out and you just have compiled a number of different items on a particular opponent for such a time as this. My philosophy is that we will just focus on the candidate themselves and their strong points, their policy points, their background, and so on and so forth. But other campaigns aren't always that way. And when they don't have a lot to stand on, you often then find a lot of times they're going on the offensive with their opposition research. I like to run a clean race though. We don't do anything. We only shoot back. But even then, the point of opposition research really isn't just to get the word out to your constituents about the type of candidate that they might be considering voting for. It's also to keep the other campaign on its toes. And so, there's some mornings, I know New York politics, you know how it goes, wake up. And what a media market to really get into the political landscape with. It's like, I love my New York media folks, but oh my goodness. But you wake up in the morning and you're getting a call about something from the New York Post and your whole day changes. And so you're now off message. And so the whole goal of opposition research is twofold in that way.
Do you get a lot of are you like Olivia Pope? Do you get that all the time?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
And then what's your response?
I like to say I'm the real life Krysten Copeland. I just don't play a political operative on TV. Olivia Pope is, and what Kerry Washington and Shonda Rhimes were able to do for someone like me that was just graduating when the first season was coming out was absolutely amazing. I mean, think about who we've seen on TV that were like bad PR women. We have Olivia Pope, we have Samantha Jones, of course. We have a few others, but I'm actually doing a Scandal rewatch as we speak. So
that's funny. I never watched it, but I watched
Scandal.
No.
Oh, Laura.
But I watched The West Wing. I mean, I'm older.
Yes.
And April and I have both worked in politics to some extent. I was too young to have been really involved in the PR aspect. I was still, doing intern type duties, or, nobody was asking me my opinion on how, they should turn on a dime because of some issue that came out in the press or whatever. So yeah, so I've never been in the thick of it like that.
I've actually never touched political PR ever. Not
you're right. Not, I guess I did do PR for a United States senator, but in the home office in New Jersey. So it was more about when he was in New Jersey, we would go to events and I would call the press to say he's going to be here or there. It was more like that while they were running the more legislative stuff from Washington. And,
Right.
the Senate staff is not allowed to do political stuff. I mean, and I know that doesn't always, but it's supposed to be separate. So I was on the Senate staff. I was not. And then he actually didn't run again anyway. So it didn't become a thing.
I do want to know, back to the Scandal thing though, before I drop this thread, because I'm super interested. How much of what you do is similar to what, Olivia Pope does? And then how much of it is a departure? And then where are the crossovers and where are the departures? I'm super curious.
Yeah.
I will say there are a lot of galas. There are some meetings in parks, but just because it's I like to be around the monuments. There is some crisis management.
Yeah.
But with my current clients, everything is pretty chill, thankfully. But sometimes you have to kind of invoke the spirit of OPA and Associates.
Yeah.
But not too much of that. And when I'm working full time with campaigns, however, it's that pace. It's she even says in one, she's like, the pace of a political day. It's addictive. You wake up, you're going. There's not a time to really stop and breathe, which is something when I join my next campaign, it's going to be something I really focus on, just making sure I have those mindfulness techniques, because I'm what is also a departure is that I no longer drink. And so the big glass of wine after the end of a long day, political or otherwise, just won't be my reality anymore. Going on one
Yeah.
year in July. The
Congrats.
other
That's amazing.
departure, thank you. The other departure is that it's not as dramatic or sexy. Like, you don't have time to dress up like that every day. If you have a meeting or something, of course, you're going to look your best. But like, a lot of times I'm just like this.
Right. You don't always look like you like came out of a
Came
Bloomingdale's
out of a
catalog.
salon and
Yeah.
no, unfortunately not. My hair and makeup, they're on vacation right now in Belize and they'll be back soon.
So what are sort of your favorite parts of the job that you're doing?
My favorite part of my job is going out and finding these new clients and having them find me and being like, oh my goodness, you have such an interesting story. Thank you for the honor of telling me that you want, Casey and Co to support you on this journey. I view it as a spiritual privilege. I view it as an honor. And I never take it for granted.
I love that. Do you have any key takeaways for our listeners about what you've learned about best practices in PR from your, years of experience that you want to impart to our fan base?
The number one would be go with your gut. I think this is more for my younger PR girlies who might have been told recently that there's all of these different things that you need to listen to except your gut. But I think specifically for my women and women identifying people, but even for the guys who are watching too, go with your gut. Your gut will always tell you. I'm in my mid 30s and I cannot stress that one enough. I guess that's another OPA overlap. Yeah. My other would be have faith in yourself and your abilities. A lot of the things that I've done, I was told I couldn't do. I was told I had to intern at 7 years of experience on a campaign before getting on a campaign, and I didn't follow the rules. The number one rule is that there are no rules. At the end of the day, you're in control of your destiny. You can plot your own chart and chart your own path and get to where you can be without following the formula of what people have told us. And I think Gen Z specifically understands this, which is why I really think they're the future. So for Gen Z, my number one piece of advice, when you interview with somebody, send them a thank you email. It's a small gesture, but that kind of relationship building will get you a really, really long way.
I love that. Well, I know you're at a breakneck speed all day long and we've already kept you over. So we have a question we ask at the end, which is a choose your own adventure 2-part, like which of these questions do you want to go with? So the first one is, what did we not ask you that we should have or that you wanted to talk about? Or is there something you wanted to ask us since we've been doing all the question asking?
I have questions for you guys. Where do you see public relations and the intersection of AI going within the next year or so? Because I have thoughts and we don't have enough time to talk about all of them, but I wrote something, or I had something in the Wired the other day about how AI was kind of impacting the job hunt search for a lot of people and for job seekers. And so I'm just so curious about PR and AI and what everybody's thinking about it.
It's concerning in that I feel like people are starting to use AI for writing, but we've already had incidents where clients did that to write a byline article they gave to us, and then we submitted it, and then it got rejected because it was clearly written by AI. So I think that there will be some pushback on that. I don't think and I think people need to be very careful not to use that as like the final product. If you use it for research like a tool and same way you use Google, great, but you can't get so reliant on that it stops there. I'm also a bit concerned about AI spitting back information that's inaccurate that we have to clean up on behalf of clients, kind of like having bad SEO on Google, except in this case it's just AI has amalgamated wrong information, and then how do you fix that? So that opens a whole new avenue of crisis PR that I don't somebody's going to have to get a handle on.
Absolutely. AI has no place in public relations. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the robots. There's no way. It's a creative field. I can see why in other creative fields it's helpful, but we can't stop writing. We can't stop fact checking and coming up with our research on our own. We can't lose those like really valuable skills. And I think AI is great if you want to get a subject line together. But if you're writing an entire email or press release with it, I'm gonna
Terrible
judge
idea.
you. Let's just say that. Yeah, I'm just gonna to say the least. Exactly.
Well, it's gonna make you sound like you don't actually know how to write with any sort of artistry or any sort of strategic thinking or any
New
sort of like,
ideas. Yeah.
I mean, PR is all
Correct.
about the phrases with high emotional impact that only a human
Yeah,
is gonna be able to generate, right? So
exactly.
It's not really PR, but I think you started to say it, Krysten, is the job market. And I'm going to say the PR job market because that's the only job market that I'm, involved with. I have clients who are in the future of work space and the future
Yeah.
of employment space. So I read about this stuff all the time. And it's come to the point where employers and employees, there's like a lot of AI bots just talking to each other. Here's my AI generated resume that AI is sending to 100 jobs, and then 100 jobs are
Yeah.
replying with AI to say, no thanks, where are the people?
Where are the people?
Right. So I think that we have to take these scary times as an opportunity to actually go back to communicating with human beings like face to face. Like you might have to get out there or call somebody on the phone or go
Oh,
to a
the
restaurant or
horror,
an event.
imagine.
Yeah. So writing, yes, and then also like doing some real networking. Even if you can't get somewhere because of where you live, if you're, able-bodied, whatever it is, to even do it like this, at least you're speaking, you're talking, you're connecting.
amazing. So Krysten, I know I want to be respectful of your time. I so appreciate that you
Yes.
spent this all with us on your vacation in Florida.
Thank you.
On your way out the door, do you have anything you'd like to plug? And where can people find you if they want to get in touch?
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me at prgirlindc.com. And that's just the blog. I've had it for a number of years, and we talk about issues with the public relations industry. We talk about opportunities with the public relations industry, best things to pitch. And we have the blog series coming up called The Art of Networking, a PR Girl's Guide to relationship building. And so I'd love if you all checked it out. And you can also check out KC and Co Communications at kccopr.com.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time. Go enjoy
Thank
that Florida
you.
sun and stay cool also.
Also that. Yes. Thank you all
Okay.
so
All right.
much.
Thanks, Krysten.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. Okay, so our news segment of the day, we're actually kind of discussing two different news stories that are interrelated. There is a news story about Google scaling back its AI search answers after it made some really high profile errors, including telling users to put glue on their pizza and saying that Barack Obama is Muslim. So essentially what they were doing is they started putting artificial intelligence answers at the top of search results for a couple of weeks. But then users started to notice that far fewer queries were triggering an AI answer compared with previous days, and this is why. So essentially, the company had to cut down on using social media posts as source material for AI answers because these things were happening. And then also it's pausing some answers on health related topics and added triggering restrictions for queries where AI overviews were not proving to be as helpful. So some people speculated online that Reddit was such good SEO that Reddit threads were impacting the results on Google. And that might have been feeding into why the AI output was inaccurate, let's say. In addition to that, there's another article that just came out on Rolling Stone about how brands are starting to turn against AI. So after a lot of hype from big tech and this rush to integrate trendy new tools in every aspect of our lives, there has been sort of the fallout of that, let's say. So it's interesting because it's so closely related to my concerns that I just expressed again to Krysten. the fact that, if AI starts amalgamating information incorrectly, it can lead to your brand or your executive that you're representing, or the politician in her case, or whoever it is, having some very strange things on the internet about them that are completely incorrect. And that is definitely something that gives me a lot of concern and pause as a PR practitioner. So I feel like this is sort of like case in point, right? Like that it's not flawless yet, right? And so
Right.
there's some concerns around how much weight we give it.
I think it's extremely complex, and it's hard to understand every facet of it. But I feel like with any new technology, everybody rushes right in and starts using it and abusing it, and then it sort of like doesn't work, or not the way you thought, or only the first 10 people who got through the door really like benefit from it, and then it becomes this big mushy muck of just nonsense. And so I feel like there's that rush, and then the water sort of recede, and then we see like, really what this is and how it can truly be used and what not to do and what to do. It's sort of like the big rush to it. It reminds me of like the Fire Fest, the Billy McFarland, that guy, like just, oh yeah, we're doing this. Oh, here we go, doing it. Not only in the way that it's being done, but also like the images themselves like aren't true, and they aren't really representative of what's going on. And that's some of the discussion in this Rolling Stone article. So first you've got, companies like Dove saying that they're not going to use AI generated content at all because they have like their Real Beauty campaign.
Right.
Then there are things like that Willy Wonka event that they did in Scotland. And apparently all of like the images for that were AI generated. And then when the kids actually went to the event, there was like, like a stick, and, he was like, they weren't taking photos or making images of what existed. They were just doing this, fantastic images. And then the actual event was nothing like what was being illustrated and advertised. But then also that the different AI technologies are like scraping the internet and using images that aren't real. And so then I guess, if I understand, it's going to like continue to compound, like fake on top of fake on top of fake. It's sort of like, when if you've ever done earnings PR before, and your earnings call happens and a reporter writes a story partially based on the call, partially based on the release, and they get like a key number wrong. The story that comes out after that's based on, let's say it's Bloomberg or something, will be wrong. And then assumptions that will be made from that story will be wrong. And it just compounds, right? So I feel like the AI scrapers and the technology that's drawing from things that already, it could be like that. Like you're wrong on top of wrong on top of wrong, right? If I understand. There's companies, it sounds like, I think it's pronounced Cara, Cara. It's a new artist portfolio site, and it's still in beta testing, but it is proudly anti-AI, and they are building a place that filters out Gen AI images so that people who want to find authentic creatives and artwork can do so easily. It aims to protect its users from the scraping of user data to train AI models, which is what I was saying, like wrong on top of wrong. So this thing is trying to protect its users from the scraping of this training Gen AI models from using people's data. And their mission is as a protest against unethical practices by AI companies scraping the internet for their generative AI models without consent or respect for people's rights or privacy. A Cara company representative told Rolling Stone. This core tenet of being against such unethical practices and the lack of legislation protecting artists and individuals is what fueled our decision to refuse to host AI-generated images. And then there's something else in the story about humans already are able to identify when something looks or reads Gen AI, which is something what we were just talking about with Krysten, right? She doesn't think that has a place in PR. I can see where it's almost like it's going to be garbage almost. You know how, what was that, Harrow, the helper reporter out? Remember how great it was when it started? And then it went to this like garbage place. And now the guy who started it, started a new Harrow, a totally new Harrow. I feel like that's what AI, it's just going to become such a massive garbage that people aren't even going to pay attention to it if it keeps going this way.
Yeah.
Now, you can use it, as we talked about, to do some research or to maybe like start, an outline or get some ideas or whatever, just as you would do if you were like brainstorming with a colleague, right? So it's your digital colleague, but to like actually think that you're going to create, it's not for creation, it's for helping you along, maybe to shorten the amount of time, or if you're like having writer's block, to give you ideas that you just couldn't get to. But it isn't going to be your creative mind.
Right. And there's no way for it to be that.
Yeah. So, but what do I know? I'm just a caveman. We'll see. I mean, it's like the beginning of the internet, when every company in the world called themselves .com.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming we've seen this, us older people's story before, and you just kind of got to ride the wave and not get too swept up in it, because it will not, what it looks like now is it's not going to look like this in a shorter window than even the internet. It's going to be, in a year, it's going to be something totally different.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think everyone's still kind of trying to figure out where it fits. I think like with anything else in this world, it's not the end all be all, but it will become central to how we live our lives, just like the internet. Right.
I think there'll be a lot of hits and misses. Well, and Apple had their big conference last week or whatever, and they're talking about the new iPhone is going to be like very integrated with AI. So we'll see how that shakes out too.
Yeah. It's the wild, wild west.
It is. I mean, I look at Bard, what is it, Gemini and ChatGPT. I will often go to all three if I'm like trying to come up with an idea to like get me going on writing something, and I'll go to all three to see which one I like best. Is that saving me time? Like going to three, then reading and comparing and what? I don't know. But I have seen that it has given me ideas or put things in a way that I wouldn't have thought to write something. Yeah. And it sort of gets me a different direction, and who knows? Let's see. But that's it. Who knows? Maybe the way I wrote it myself would have been good. Maybe not. You never know.
Yeah.
It's giving kind of more options, I guess. So again, maybe it's saving time, in a finance function, like in accounting or something like that, where they can like load up a ton of data and be like, run all of these, scenarios. But you still got to double check it.
I mean, it's fallible to itself, but it's also fallible to humans, right? AI. So even if somebody came up with a fact checking, kind of like the Google of fact checking based on AI, we've already seen that A, it's not foolproof, and B, humans can help populate and train AI to do what they want it to do.
Right. So it's being influenced. Is
Always.
Yeah.
Either by itself or by social media or by wherever it's getting information or data, or from whatever humans are behind it helping to guide, train, input, right? I mean, it's not like, oh, we don't trust humans, let's trust this.
Right. It's not a replacement for maybe what it lacks.
And it's never going to be independent from human flaws. I think AI can only take from what's been done, which yes is what a lot of great artists do, arguably, but they still put their own perspective, life force, experience, creative thought. I mean, that's where something new that's great comes from. It's kind of like, I don't know if you believe in the soul, but whatever it is, that life force of that human is in that thing, and that's never going to be generated by AI.
Yeah, I'm going to go, for me right now, I think it's this spontaneity. That's the thing that for me is the number one differentiator. And I'm even equating spontaneity to what you said about like the soul.
Yeah.
that's sort of synonymous to me.
Yeah. And I think it's similar to creativity. So I think we're basically saying the same thing. Or as somebody I worked with once at Edelman he used to say when people were disagreeing, I think basically we're just aggressively agreeing with each other.
What a PR guy.
I know. And I was like, I know it's a line and he uses it all the time, but I love it. All right. I think on that note, we should wrap this one and thank our listeners. Yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in for the PR Wind Down podcast.
And thank you to Krysten for joining us for a really great interview.
Remember to submit your own agency stories and questions and share our show with your friends and colleagues. If you subscribe and leave us a rating, it will help us reach new listeners like you.
And if you have an anonymous PR horror story, please send it our way at the contact email below the episode notes.
We can't wait to wind down with you again next time.